It's still just logging.
Oh my gosh, it's just. You click on something and it's like, oh, let me take 10 minutes for this. Just want to open the back end. Please let me. I beg you.
There's only this couple of documents, right?
Yeah, I just. Wanted to make sure it was, I wanted to share it on the screen.
Oh. That's gonna bog things down.
Good evening, guys.
Hello.
Nick,
Hey there, Nick.
says we
Morning.
have 4 participants, let's see. There we go.
Oh, good. Well, we got Jay and Brendan and Brandon. Well, we got everybody. We'll get started. We'll make this as quick as possible. So we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02. And Brad's already noted in the roll. We just need approval for the minutes from the November 20th, 2024 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, and then we need a second.
I
Jay, I
second.
see you're not muted. Will you second?
I second.
Awesome. Is there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, none's passed. There's nobody here for appearances. There's nobody in person. There's nobody in the waiting room on the internet. So we can close the appearance section, move on to item 5, which is unfinished business. First item is a public works garage, building envelope improvements, and this is the O&A contract consideration and recommendation to council. And Brad will start us off and he'll let us know what action he's looking for from the group.
So we're looking for a recommendation for approval by the city council for this. So if we could engage a motion to approve in a second, then we can discuss it further.
Brendan, would you mind making a motion to approve this item, and then we'll get a second, and then we can discuss it. That way we'll be ready for a vote right at the end.
Sure. Yep. I so motion.
All right, and Nick, do you mind seconding?
Yep. I'll second.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Brad, what is it, anything that you want to highlight for the group or any specific questions?
So they have in here 2 pre-bid meetings on site for the contractor. Those pre-bid meetings are actually happening this week, so part of the scope of services is technically happening as we speak. But then as you'll note in here, I wanted to say it's here it is. 12 site visits are included in this over the span of the portion of construction. Construction is not actually slated to start until after July 1st, because that is the due date or drop dead date for our third-party contractor who owns the solar arrays to get the solar arrays off the rooftop. So they will remove the solar arrays by July 1st, and whoever's contracted via low bid or approved by council will then begin their construction. So
Perfect. All right, any questions from the group?
Do we have a construction, like a rough line?
yeah, timeline is probably not going to take very long because they'll have the contract approved and any lead time they have on materials will have been taken care of by then, so they're gonna order everything way ahead of time, have it all ready to go for us. My assumption, based on what I discussed with our engineer or designer, is like a 18-month or 18-week, or I'm sorry, the 6-week, so 1.5 months time frame for construction.
Okay, so
The roo-
if they're truly making 12 QA site visits, they're there pretty much twice a week, or
Yeah,
okay,
basically. You know, like, let's say they're there twice a week at the beginning of construction, once a week further on. And then they might save 1 site visit for closeout of the project and punch list prep. And then 1 site visit for warranty checks, so. Making sure that the punch list that was put together is done completely before we issue our final payment. And then that begins the warranty period for the city. So our warranty is probably gonna be good through next year, you know, October. Or so, right around there. So,
Okay.
Do you wanna have them take one of their 12 and make it a, you know, final punch out or review of the punch list for verification in the contract?
so my understanding of the contract is it's 12 site visits during construction. And it's 1 site visit for punch.
It looks like it's separated out that they
Yeah.
have the 12 plus an additional one.
Yeah, but I thought what you just described, Brad, made sense to me that, you know, you have a punch list, but then you need to go back out there and make sure they corrected all the stuff too, right?
Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
We can add in, I can just make that clear with them. I mean, what's in the contract isn't always verbatim exactly what happens. But yeah, I can make sure that when we discuss scheduling, inspections and site visits. That they have at least 2 for the punch list items. One is what we call pre-punch. And
Yep.
then one is project wrap up.
Okay.
All right, makes sense. Any other questions that the group has?
None for me.
All right, hearing none, we already have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion is passed. Item B is the lower level HVAC improvements, finals design contract, consideration recommendation to council.
All right, this is our biggest project, facility project yet. So this is the second phase of design. We had preliminary work done in 2024. This is the 3rd total phase in actual construction at the library for the HVAC system. So we've had 2 prior phases before this. Let me see. And so this phase is to design the complete replacement of the lower level HVAC system. Basically, the only things staying in place is the ductwork. Maybe some electrical and some piping. The goal is to reuse the existing water piping that goes to the booster coils for new VAV units. And the rest of it is new air handlers, new boilers, new fresh air intake. And then all new piping, electrical, etc. Everything else that has to go with it, and including programming. So the control system is going to be completely replaced as well. So all new controllers, all new front end. Or at least integration with the existing front end. And I've given them a schedule. They know that they need to get us an estimate of cost and a 60 to 75% design by June or July. So that this group can get back together, review that design, give it all of our feedback back to the engineer. And then they'll come back again in August before we send a budget to the mayor at that point.
Okay. So this schedule that's yours being adjusted.
It is
slightly?
being adjusted
Okay.
slightly, yep. We just met last week and started tweaking that again.
Okay, perfect. All right, why don't we get a motion and a second, and that way, then we'll just ask if there's any questions. So we're looking for a motion for approval or recommendation for city council for approval of this item.
I'll make a motion for approval.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions?
I think last time we talked about, or I can't remember exactly which meeting. There was some discussion about where this was gonna be located. Is this the one where there was gonna be a tough time getting the equipment into the existing room?
So it will be in that existing room. We remeasured the door. It's a 40-inch door. So most of the equipment is gonna fit pretty seamlessly. And a lot of this equipment comes in bits and pieces, and then they put it together inside the space. So taking the old equipment out is gonna be harder, the hardest part of the project, much harder.
That's gonna be part of the bid.
Yep. Everything's incorporated, that's why it's expensive, and it's a difficult project. And with a tight timeline, because we're gonna write in milestones that, you know, once you start, you're done by X date.
Yeah.
And the bidders are gonna know, I mean, they're gonna know when they bid on it, everybody's held to the same
Yeah.
timeframe. And that's because it's a building's in use the entire time. And basically the entire lower level is without conditioned spaces as construction moves forward.
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, that was my next question is, so they're gonna have to go without HVAC. Any idea how long?
The time frame for demolition is about 2.5 weeks. Timeframe for construction is a month to a month and a half, so probably all of 2 months, if not a little bit more. And we're looking at the not during the summer, so they have a lot of summer programs that use the spaces downstairs. So we're not going to do the summer, so looking at the way we're bidding this, it's either gonna have to be April to June
Of the next year.
of 2026, or it's gonna have to be September to like early November or something like that.
Okay.
So we're in heating and cooling season, but we're not in the max season.
Yeah, and there's not a way to contain for upstairs because of the open staircase.
Which is actually a benefit for our project, actually. Because the conditioned air from upstairs will seep down to the lower level. So at least the cafe area will have some comfort.
Yeah.
It's just those programmed spaces that we're pretty much gonna have to shut down. There's not much we can do about it.
All right, others have any questions?
Yeah, I'd just be concerned about us getting them a very phasing schedule through the design that clearly points out when the work is expected to do and you know exactly what equipment's getting installed when. You know, having a boiler out during summer may not seem like a big ask, but you're gonna have some thermal comfort issues even upstairs if those reheats aren't functioning. So just want to make sure that they're thinking all those things through.
Yeah, it's actually a benefit. The system, the way it's currently being controlled is we're not running an enthalpy type of system, so dehumidifying upstairs with the VAVs is not really a priority of the VAV system right now, the way it's programmed. So really, that space is being conditioned mostly in the summertime by the rooftop unit, which is not coming offline, obviously, during construction.
Yeah, I don't remember if there's reheats in those VAV boxes upstairs.
They can reheat.
Yeah, typically we'll kind of subcool at the air handler and then reheat at the space. And that kind of alleviates a lot of those like clammy type days. So it seems counterintuitive when you say we'll be without a boiler in summer, we shouldn't have any issues. You kind of run into those kind of weird humidity issues, not necessarily hot, cold issues.
We've done this in the past where we've used the rooftop unit to dehumidify. It doesn't work great, but for the couple of months, it can work. We've done it
Yeah.
before.
Well, and I think what Brendan's pointing out is, and what you've already said is, because we're not doing it in the bulk of the summer, if we push it, we might be better off pushing it in the fall than the spring, which has more likelihood of humidity problems.
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
Good point, Brendan.
And I think what we'll do, that's actually a good point. What we'll do is we'll close down the economizers during construction on the rooftop units. So that the upper level isn't pulling in that cold, humid morning air and causing the humidity to rise in the building. Because most of the humidity ends up sinking down to the lower level. So, we can definitely do that during construction too. That way
Yeah,
we're kind
there's
of,
definitely a lot you can do to kind of alleviate some of those issues. Just kind of want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
it's also gonna be it's gonna be kind of trial and error as we go. We're not gonna have any conditioned air in the lower level. How's that gonna affect the upper level and how much really truly seeps through the floor? I mean, it's a span-free floor, but it's not insulated.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm gonna be on site pretty much on a daily basis, checking in on that project, so. And I'll be on our program, checking temps and humidity levels, and if we have to make adjustments, we can make it. And we'll work with our existing contractor to kind of manage the upper level, and the construction contractor can then just be free to do their thing in the lower level. And they don't have to worry about like conditions in the upper level, cause that's not part of the project really. And I kind of want to keep it separate, because if the contractor that's doing the installation is different from our maintenance contractor, I don't want them tweaking our system to accommodate construction. And then our maintenance contractor looking at it and being like, what's going on, you know? So kind of gonna keep those two separate. Construction is construction. And, maintenance and daily operation of the existing system is gonna be completely different.
Any other questions or concerns from the group? All right, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the recommendation to move this to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Brad, any other staff updates?
Just really brief, the community center project is underway.
Good deal.
You all seen that a couple different times. Got delayed, then it had to come back, all that. They're in full on demo mode right now, so it's quite a mess. We have an election coming up. It's a small election, but nonetheless, it's in that building.
Yeah.
So they're in the process of trying to figure out how to get it, essentially usable for that election. At least temporarily kind of cleaning up spaces, moving things around, making it accessible. And then once it's done, going back into it, full, and trying to get it to the point where we're starting to wrap up the stairway. And all of that.
The election's upstairs, all right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they could enter up the steps and then go left into that space.
That event room is one of the rooms that's getting
Oh,
worked on,
oh,
in along with like the whole stairwell area.
oh,
So they gotta go through that to get to
okay.
there, so there's things like plastic wrap up right now for dust control and whatnot, it's all gonna have to kind of get cleaned up and taken down and then put back up again. So that's that project. So if you're really bored, I mean really bored, and you're just curious, go ahead and go over to the community center and see how that's going. And then we have a couple maintenance projects going on here at City Hall upcoming, trying to get them on the schedule with our contractor. Some ductwork modifications with the cold air return for the admin wing. And then also we're putting in some air transfer grills in the bunk room downstairs for the fire department. Right now, there's 0 cold air return or air transfer grills in that bunk room. And they've been complaining for 2 or 3 or 4 decades about how humid it is in that space. And so when we found out, when I actually sat in there and looked around and put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah.
And said, well, yeah, you guys don't move any air. Do you ever leave the door open? No.
Yeah.
Do you open the door and the window at the same time at night. Cause they actually have a window and that's the only window in this building that opens. Outside of the one in dispatch, and they said, oh no, I'm like, well, you're pulling in cold. Humid air in the morning. And you're just stuffing it in here and it can't go anywhere, so. We're gonna take care of that problem this year, and I'm working with the chief on a couple other items. Getting some new PA speakers put in the fire department. For their, when the CAD calls come in from dispatch from the county. Those speakers are about 40 years old.
Yeah, you can't hear anything.
Yeah, so. That's all gonna get replaced, that whole system, and make some more modern adjustments to it, so. That's it for now, knock on wood, I know that the community center, condenser. Or compressor that went out, needs to be replaced, we've been delaying that because we didn't have any funding last year. We have funding in the capital budget, so I just gotta get with our contractor and make sure that they order the compressor and that they get a timeline for installation. My goal is to get it installed by April. Yeah, because at some point we'll be getting to the point of needing to use it, so. And we'd like to test it and we don't wanna be blowing in. You know, freezing cold conditioned air in March. Or February, and freezing everybody out inside the building, especially seeing as it's a senior center. And people tend to be cold already.
Yeah.
That's it for now, that's all I have for staff updates at this point.
All right, next meeting, you'll let us know when we need it, then any questions or updates on diversity, equity, inclusion and sustainability efforts in general from the group? That's done, we need a motion for adjournment,
Make a motion.
all right, we need a second,
Second.
thank you, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed, all right, thank you guys all for joining on virtual, hopefully you stay home, stay safe. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Everybody.
Night.
Have a go and be safe.
Night.
Short and sweet.
Do this.